Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bird Notice. Billy here. I'm here with Ryan. Leading off, the Orioles acquire Tyler Nevin from the Tigers for cash considerations. Joe Mauer, Todd Helton, and Adrian Beltre are elected to the Hall of Fame. And the Ravens lose in the AFC Championship game. But Ryan, what episode number is this?
This is episode number 33, which was Eddie Murray's number and is the highest numerical jersey retired by the O's, save for Jackie Robinson's number 42, of course. Drafted in the third round in 1973 out of high school in LA, where he played with fellow Hall of Famer Ozzie Smith, Murray began his pro career at the age of 17 in Bluefield. He had been a right-handed hitter until struggling with Double-A Asheville in 1975, where manager Jimmy Schaefer encouraged him to try switch hitting, which obviously paid off. Debuting with the O's in 1977 at age 21, he was primarily the DH in his rookie year, hitting 27 homers with 88 RBIs to win the AL Rookie of the Year award. Murray became the primary first baseman in 1978, making his first of 8 All-Star teams. His run from 81 through 85 was exceptional, being named an All-Star and finishing in the top 5 of MVP voting each year with an average season of 29 homers, 107 RBIs, and a 920 OPS. Murray won his 3 Gold Gloves in this span and also hit 3 homers with 6 RBIs in 9 playoff games for the 1983 World Series champions. He was traded to his hometown Dodgers before the 1989 season after a rift with owner Edward Bennett Williams, who thought Murray wasn't giving his all on the field, while Murray felt Williams wasn't building the best team that he could. Murray won the Silver Slugger in 1990, along with a 5th place finish in NL MVP voting with the highest batting average in the majors, and was an All-Star in 1991. Murray followed his stint in LA with 2 seasons with both the Mets and in Cleveland, then returned to Baltimore in 1996 in a trade for Kent Mercker. He finished his career back in Southern California, signing with Anaheim in 97 before being released and finishing that year with the Dodgers at the age of 41. He is the all-time leader in RBIs by a switch hitter and second in home runs behind Mickey Mantle. Murray ranks among the top 5 Orioles in offensive WAR, runs, hits, total bases, doubles, home runs, and RBIs. So he rightfully deserves the very long write-up I just gave you.
Yeah, hats off to Eddie Murray. That was cool. He was able to get that second act in Baltimore where he could hit his 500th home run.
Yeah, I also learned doing this that he wasn't a switch hitter until he was in the minor leagues. I had no idea. I kind of figured that was something he did since he was a kid or something.
Yes, especially since he was so natural at it. He made it look easy.
Right. It's really impressive to just be like, oh, I'm going to hit lefty now too and be really good at it.
Yeah, Cedric Mullins couldn't pull it off.
That's true.
Yeah, I got a number 33. I got Wayne Causey. Without many 33s to choose from, I went with Wayne Causey, who got a mention last week during my apology to Whitey Herzog. Wayne Causey made his major league debut on June 5th, 1955 for the Orioles. He played shortstop, second, and third over his 11-year career from 55 to 68. He debuted as an 18-year-old, and his inexperience showed as he hit 187 in 135 games for Baltimore from 55 to 57. It was sent to the minor leagues for 4 years before he traded to the Kansas City Athletics. He also played for the White Sox, Angels, and Braves, hitting .252 with 35 home runs and 285 RBI before wrapping up his career at the age of 31. In his final season, he played for 3 teams. He started the year with the White Sox. He was traded to the Angels on July 20th for former Oriole Woody Heald before being purchased by Atlanta on July 29th, where his career would end after going 4 for 37 in 16 games. In 1964, he finished 24 places behind the human vacuum cleaner Brooks Robinson in American League MVP voting. He received a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting from Northeast Louisiana State College after taking off-season classes, and he is still alive today at the age of 87.
Very nice. 2 mentions for Wayne Causey.
Yeah, Wayne Causey. I never heard of him before, but 2 weeks in a row, that's pretty good for Bird Notice.
A 2 episode streak. One other thing I forgot to mention I learned about Eddie Murray. Um, I was scrolling through his stats and noticed that on Baseball Reference it has him leading the league in 1990 with a 330 batting average, but it's not emboldened like you would see generally for the leading the majors. So I wrote a question to Baseball Reference because I'm a dork, and they actually sent a nice detailed response and said, actually, it was because Willie McGee in 1990 hit 335 with the Cardinals over 125 games. Then he ended up in Oakland where he only hit 274, so that lowered his overall batting average to 324. So Eddie Murray led the majors with a 330 average, but he did not lead the National League that year. That was McGee. So that was an interesting tidbit.
Willie McGee. There's a video of that after I think one of the World Series. It might be Vince Coleman. They're celebrating and they're naming a bunch of guys who helped the team out, and he's Willie McGee.
I think Vince Coleman and Willie McGee were those guys on the same teams. They must have been stealing a ton of bases.
Yeah, that was Whitey Ball, the aforementioned Whitey Herzog.
Yeah, and was that 85 Cardinals?
Yep.
They won on Denkinger. Was that the umpire who missed that call?
Yeah, way to go, buddy. That was an all-time bad call.
Yeah, for sure. Oh well, you'll live and learn.
No replay to bail him out then.
Right.
Do you have any objections to Mauer, Helton, or Beltre's induction into the Hall of Fame?
No, I think they're all deserving. You know, I'm too lazy to look up the stats right now. I think there is an argument for did Helton benefit from being a Rocky for his career, but whatever. He was really good, and he was also a good fielder, and I'm fine with it. But I do wish Billy Wagner got in.
Yeah, I'm with you on Billy Wagner. Next year's his last year, so that could get dicey. I think you should get points, like real points, for spending your entire season or your entire career in one city, like Helton and Mauer did. And yeah, you get to represent the Rockies. Like, they don't got a lot going on for them. They
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you got a guy that close, like, you can push him in for the franchise stalwart.
Well, then wasn't Larry Walker inducted last year? I know he wasn't a Rocky his whole career, but that's 2 in a row.
Yeah,
It's kind of impressive. And Joe Mauer was from St. Paul, I believe, so he's like a twin through and through, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, Minnesotan for life. Yeah, no objections from me on A&M. Sheffield deserves a spot, I believe.
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth on him. I would put in Andrew Jones before Sheffield because Andrew Jones was such a great fielder, but Sheffield was certainly a very good player as well.
I think Sheffield being a mercenary hurts him, like in the way that Helton and Mauer are helped by being in one city their whole career. Sheffield has really no defining team in his career.
Yeah, and I also think Sheffield is one of those guys who was never like super congenial with the media, and that's probably part of it, whether that's for better or worse.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, actually. Good thing we didn't waste much time on James Paxton last episode because he signed a 1-year contract with the Dodgers.
Yeah, and I read, I think today, that he already had his contract reduced from $11 million to a $7 million guarantee due to some medical concerns, which is frankly not surprising if you ask me.
Yeah, the Dodgers can afford to roll the dice on a starting pitcher who may or may not be ready for opening day.
Yeah, $7 million sounds better than 11 for a guy like him. I was kind of surprised when I heard that first number.
I saw he had a $1 million opening day roster bonus. I don't know if that made the cut in the restructuring or not, but you knew there was some issues when you saw that.
Right. Yeah, we'll pay you if you make the team.
Did you save your Tyler Nevin jersey? Because he's back.
I got 3. I got a black, an orange, and a white in my closet.
Nice, yeah. He's the perfect addition for the Tides, I think.
Right. Yeah, that was an interesting move. I have no opinion on him coming or going. It was just kind of one of those guys who he played here for a bit, and you kind of saw what he was and figured you'd never see him again.
Yeah, I assume the Tides will be losing Josh Lester and Lewin Diaz, so there'll be plenty of at bats available at first base and third base. I'm sure he'll DH some too. He's out of options, so they'll have to sneak him back through waivers to get him down to AAA.
I wonder where did Kobe Mayo make it up to Norfolk last year?
Yeah, he was very good.
Yeah, so he's primarily a third baseman, right?
He was playing first, third, and right field, I believe.
Okay.
He's big.
Yeah, I think he's like 6'5", huh?
Yeah, he's really big. He's super young. He looks like a he still looks like a kid.
He hits like a man.
Yeah. To Tyler Nevin real quick. I'm sure when he got the news that he was going back to Baltimore, he's like, "Cool, all my friends are still there." And then he was like, "Fuck," when he remembered how buried he was going to be by other infield prospects.
Yeah, he's just coming back to have some fun. He's got some friends in the minors, I'm sure. I bet you he'll be happy to just be part of the organization again. I mean, no offense to Detroit or wherever he was, but it's got to be more fun to be an Oriole these days, which is kind of a weird thing to be saying.
Yeah. I'm sure he's headed for a career as a 4A player, but those are still fun guys to watch in person when you go to a minor league game.
Yeah, why not?
And have you ever heard of Daniel Johnson?
I have not. I could Google him and probably still wouldn't figure out who that is.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of Daniel Johnsons out there roaming around. Yeah, according to Baseball Reference, he's nicknamed Jet. He signed a minor league contract with the Orioles recently. He was a 2016 fifth-round draft choice out of New Mexico State University by the Nationals. He's 28 years old, 35 career games with Cleveland in 2020 and 2021, where he hit 202 and 89 career at-bats with 32 strikeouts.
The only thing that stands out to me is New Mexico State. That rings a bell for some reason.
I expect to see him a lot this season with the Tides, and for you, he played in 26 games with Rochester in 2022.
So that means he was a national. That's
Yeah.
that's probably why I have no idea who he is. Not
Yeah,
paying attention to the Red Wings nearly as much now that they're the Twins. I could still kind of get on board with. Now that they're the Nationals team, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson spent 2022 playing for 6 different minor league teams, 3 alone in the International League. Last season, he was in the Padres system, split between AA and AAA. And I bring this up to you because AA was the San Antonio Missions and AAA was the El Paso Chihuahuas. You're in Texas. Have you ever been to any of their games?
No, I've been to San Antonio, I think twice. I want to say that's like a 4-hour drive ish. El Paso is much further, and I've never been out there. I think that's like over 6, maybe 7 or 8. Texas is very large, and I've not been to El Paso.
Yeah, the Chihuahuas have a great brand now. I wouldn't mind getting one of their hats someday.
I'm surprised you don't already, knowing you.
I got rules now. I can only buy a minor league hat if I actually go to the stadium.
Well, guess you got to go to El Paso to get one then.
Yeah. Then the other rules are they got to be either the Orioles, Commanders, Predators, or Hornets.
If not a minor league team.
Yeah, minor league team.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I got too many hats.
I do too.
The Orioles gave out another minor league contract. This one is for Andrew Suarez. He was the Giants' second-round pick in 2015. He started 29 games for San Francisco in 2018, but only 2 career starts since. After 2020, he went to Japan for 2 seasons and didn't appear in any major league games until the 13 last season with St. Louis, where he had a 7.16 ERA and 13 relief appearances with 15 walks in 27 and 2/3 innings.
Sure. Andrew Suarez. Why not?
Second round pick. That's pretty good.
Yeah, good pedigree.
Yeah, so there's a lottery ticket for the Orioles. If we see him or Daniel Johnson on the Orioles roster, something bad happened.
Yeah, that's true. Just like we talked about with Errol Robinson and that other Maryland guy.
Yeah, I love my minor league contracts. I'm all over those.
Well, you're going to see them most likely.
I got one more here. Ronald Guzman, he's 29 years old. He signed with the Rangers as an international free agent in 2011. He played in the 2016 Futures game. He won the Tom Grieve Award in 2017 for the Rangers Minor League Player of the Year. He has 743 career at bats, almost all of them in 2018 and 2019 with Texas. But what's interesting about this signing is the Orioles signed him to be a pitcher.
Hey, I just looked him up. He's 6'5", 235, two-way player, possibly. I'm thinking maybe the next Otani. What about you?
Yeah, from what I read, he can throw it up to 98.
Sounds good. Let's bring him up.
Ronald Guzman. He spent some time in the Yankees organization too. I think with the Yankees. Welcome to Baltimore. And if anyone can replace Shohei Otani's bat in Anaheim, it's Aaron Hicks, right?
Oh, for sure. And the speed and the pitching. He's got that good arm. Could put him on the mound. Maybe in a late game, they'll be getting blown out a few times this year. Let's be honest. He should get a chance to pitch.
I was under the impression we all understood he wasn't coming back for 2024, but apparently some people didn't get the memo that this was always a marriage of convenience between Aaron Hicks and the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, I think it was never going to be anything more than a 1-year fling, if you will, and it worked out well for both sides, and it's time to move on to greener pastures, I suppose.
Yeah, he got a lot of love from a lot of the fans after the news of him signing with the Angels, but that was well deserved. So thank you, Aaron Hicks, for your service.
Yes.
And one more from leading off. We can pour one out for Adam Frazier. He signed a 1-year contract with an option with the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, he, just like Hicks, did his job. He was a good, solid vet for the O's last year, and now making way for some of the younger guys, I guess.
The Royals have had an interesting offseason, but then I read if they win 20 more games than they did last season, they'll still only be at 76 wins.
Yeah, that's terrible. I can probably name like 2 guys on the Royals.
I could name most of their rotation. They added Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo, then they'll have Jordan Lyles and Brady Singer.
Okay, that's better than I could have done. I was thinking Bobby Witt and Salvador Perez behind the plate.
And the Pasquatch, Vinny Pasquantino.
Oh, yeah. That guy was good against the O's. I remember that.
Yeah. You got anything for leading off before we get into some big news?
I have a couple things from last time just to like correct me. One thing we talked about was how the Yankees are kind of boring, and I think both of us forgot that they traded for Juan Soto, who's objectively one of the best players in baseball. But I think you could also argue they're still kind of boring, even with him.
Yeah, I agree. I think they are kind of boring. They used to have like 6 Juan Sotos, and now they have 1 Juan Soto and half of an Aaron Judge.
Yeah, he should put up good numbers with that right field. He's also one of those guys who is really effective largely because he doesn't swing at bad pitches, so he walks a lot, which is great for the team, but also it's not like watching Ronald Acuna or like Trey Turner or somebody speeding around the bases, so I get that too.
And they traded a lot of pitching for him. It was like 4 pitchers or something.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the Yankees prospects, but Juan Soto is indeed on the Yankees, and somehow I just completely forgot about that when we were talking about them last time.
I'd be stunned if that isn't where he signs. How about you? I'd be absolutely floored if he's not a Yankee in 2025.
Yeah, I don't see why the Yankees would give up that much and not sign him. If it was some other team who was like a player from true contention that may or may not have the money, but the Yankees, yeah, that would be weird.
All right, you ready for some ownership talk?
Yeah, real quick before that, speaking of ownership, I noticed myself on multiple episodes kind of flip flopping between whether I think the O's window is open now or later. And speaking of ownership, before news of the sale, I was gonna say their window's open now because I don't think they're gonna keep all these guys. But now that might change, so screw it. I'm gonna say the window's open now because they're gonna be around and they just made a huge trade. Then they're going for something.
Yeah, I've been following this team closely since 2007, and I now have to recalibrate my brain to what's possible for the front office. I had always just assumed that these young players were going to walk after 6 years, but I don't know if anybody heard or not. The Orioles have been sold to David Rubenstein from John Angelos. Might be an upgrade there.
Anyone that's not John Angelos, I think that's probably more than half of Orioles fans' excitement right now is just the fact that he's not the owner anymore. It's not even who the new owner is. I don't think we know enough about how he's going to be as an owner. It's just not Angelos, so it's a great day.
Yeah, so now some extensions could be in the cards, maybe some starting pitchers, maybe they'll even make a trade.
Maybe.
I had the thought with Blake Sneller and Montgomery, it'd be interesting to give them like a 1 year, $50 million contract. You'd still only be moving the payroll into the middle of baseball with a silly move like that, but that'd be interesting. I don't think either player or their agents would go for that.
Probably not. I mean, they're both lefties. They did move the left field wall back, so that might keep a couple homers in the ballpark, but yeah, I don't think that would happen. But after the news we got today, I don't think that's going to happen at all.
How do we say his name? Is it Rubenstein or Rubenstein?
I went on good old YouTube and looked up a couple interviews with him to hear people say his name, and I was hearing Rubenstein.
Okay. Should I say Rubenstein to cover our bases?
If you'd like, we can do that.
I'm Rubenstein. Was I the one who broke the news to you?
Yeah, I think so. I saw your text, and, I had not seen anything concrete before you texted me. Just the rumors from like a month or two ago.
Yeah, we had all known about the rumors, but it still felt like it was never going to happen. It was almost I'll believe it when I see it, no matter how much smoke there was for me anyway.
Right. It's one of those things where you know it's going to happen eventually, but you weren't really holding your breath because I don't know, just the fact that John Angelos was such a antagonist the whole time. I just figured he would just prolong the sale and make it as painful as possible for fans, and he didn't, and that was nice. That's one thing I appreciate from him, I guess.
Yeah, I saw the John Oren tweet within like 5 minutes of it being sent out. Someone had quote tweeted it, and I know who John Oren is because I followed him on my personal account. But because Twitter is a shell of itself now, and journalists and whoever don't have proper verification, I had to click on his account. I noticed the @ handle was different because now it's Oren Puck. It used to be Oren SBJ for Sports Business Journal. I saw his follower count. I saw his pinned tweet explaining why his @ handle was changed because he got a new job. And I may or may not have cried.
Yeah, I think the first thing I told you when you texted me is I just hope this is real, and turns out it was, so it was awesome.
Welcome to the Orioles family, David Rubenstein.
Right.
He did not ask us to be investors, for the record, so we could still talk about them freely.
Well, we've got Cal Ripken and Grant Hill and a former mayor of Baltimore. I can't think of his name, but there's a few, but Rubenstein's the big gun.
And maybe more importantly, Michael Bloomberg is in the group. We got them Bloomberg bucks, baby.
Oh yeah. No, that's true. That's another thing. Rubenstein's got interview series with all these CEOs and billionaires and stuff. If he ever gets in a pinch, he should just be able to call someone up and, you know, get another $50 million to sign that new player.
There weren't many people questioning the sale, but there was a couple, which was baffling. So I tried to put myself in the skeptic's shoes, and the only thing I could come up with is the fact that Rubenstein is 74, so maybe his time as the lead control person is a little more limited than we'd like, and the next in line would be Mike Orgetti, whoever that is, but I mean, I don't care about that. We'll all be dead by then because of the climate or whatever.
Yeah, that or nuclear war or something. Just gotta, yeah. You're right. If you're Rubenstein, just go for it while you're still alive. Why not?
Yeah, I don't think you buy a team at 74 years old and not want to win. And at a minimum, there's a almost 0% chance that Rubenstein is going to embarrass himself in the media the way Angelos has. You almost expect Angelos to hold a press conference while he's wearing a bib and eating ribs.
Yeah, Rubenstein. I mean, he does his own media stuff. He seems very well versed in how to communicate and speak on camera, and just generally not make an ass of himself. So that's a victory.
Yeah, he almost looks like he's like elegant in a way.
Well, I mean, he's worth almost $4 billion, so it doesn't cost that much to be elegant, I suppose.
Yeah, this move is good for everybody: the fans, the city, the state. Rubenstein and his group. It's even good for the Angelos family. The only people this move is bad for is the American League East.
I hope so. I mean, we don't know how he'll be as an owner yet, but just as I said, the fact that it's not Angelos is a good thing, and it's really hard to spend less than the Orioles have in recent years. So if anything changes, it's going to be for the positive.
Masson was included in this sale. I'll be reluctantly reactivating my DirecTV stream account in the next month or so. So I can only hope there's a direct to consumer option on the table for this ownership group in time for 2025 if I'm lucky. I guess I can't hold them to this season. That'd be a lot to ask.
Yeah, we talked about a few weeks back whether Masson would be part of the deal or not, because that's worth a lot of money, and maybe not as much as it once was, but live sports are still one of the main drivers of TV revenue, so it's certainly worth something.
I have no issues pointing out when I get something wrong. I'm looking at you, Jack Flaherty. So I'm going to pat myself on the back when I get something right. I read a Ken Rosenthal article today on The Athletic, and it mentioned that it's expected Masson will be spun off possibly to Ted Leonsis, who wants to buy the Nationals and is launching his own monumental sports network. I specifically mentioned a couple episodes, Rubenstein and Leonsis, or any other new owners who would buy these franchises untangling the Masson mess. This is the one chance I get to do it and have a clean slate and work together with each other instead of suing each other.
Right. Maybe a deal can be made, or Rubenstein can make those payments that Masson is due to the Nationals, and get that all settled and sell it off so he doesn't have to worry about it, I guess.
And John Angelos, like, he was a PR disaster, but I think he can pat himself on the back for the job he did getting this team ready for his sale. Not only is he selling, but he's actually keeping his family's actually keeping a minority share, and because of the way the sale is structured, they get to avoid capital gains taxes. The payroll is clean. The farm system is literally bursting. A new Dominican academy just opened. Even though he went down kicking and screaming, he did get the lease done before the deadline. So I guess that counts. I don't really care that he lied to the politicians as reported. In fact, I'd be surprised if he didn't.
Yeah, right. You kind of got to expect that. And I did see some rumors that he might have sold partly because he wasn't happy with the lease terms, but I don't know. I don't care. That's good, I guess. Maybe the state bent him over a little so they could force him to sell. That would be kind of cool if that's how it happened.
Yeah, that would be exciting. Those politicians, I hope they're feigning shock that they were lied to. Because if not, you got to question if they're fit for office or not. If you're one of their constituents.
Yeah, that's maybe you're right. Maybe they're saying they're surprised because they are being questioned by some people as to how they couldn't see this coming. So they're just pretending like, oh, he lied to us when they kind of figured all along this was coming. Who knows?
Yeah, there was signs pointing to a sale. I mean, if we saw it, they should be able to see it.
Yeah, you could just see it on Angelos's face and his demeanor and the way he talked. He just never seemed like he was happy to be there and always would rather be doing anything else than owning a baseball team.
I always see Angelos get credit for hiring Elias, but I've often wondered if he was actually advised to hire Elias by Major League Baseball or maybe some hiring firm. But he was smart enough to get out of the way and let Elias and his front office do what they do. That's nothing. That's not nothing for an Angelos to let the baseball people do baseball.
Yeah, there's certainly something to be said about owners who don't meddle, but at the same time, who knows how much internal budget restrictions he placed on the team, and maybe that's why they weren't spending money lately. I don't know those answers, but yeah, it's always nice when an owner kind of stays out of the way and doesn't become a Jerry Jones or something.
There's been a lot of good articles this week about the Orioles, and I can't remember where I read this one because I've read so many. This was in regard to Peter Angelos hiring Frank Wren as general manager, I think back in 1998. Pat Gillick had talked to Frank Wren, and he had told him to look at this Orioles job as a 3-year training period for his next job. And in fact, Wren had actually quit after 2 weeks, and Peter Angelos had to talk him out of it and change his mind.
Pat Gillick's in the Hall of Fame, isn't he?
Yeah, he built the Blue Jays and the Phillies.
Yeah, so sage advice, I guess.
Even Buster Olney had some nice things to say.
That's surprising. That's a true change in the Orioles right there.
Yeah, I like Buster's appearances on Kornheiser's podcast. But what was always irritating about his comments and opinions on the Orioles is they were so clearly personal to his time working in Baltimore. And you want someone covering baseball for a national outlet to not have biased opinions. So it's nice to see he's ready to start covering the Orioles professionally again and not as like a jilted lover.
Right. Maybe that was a Angelos beef he had going back decades.
He was gushing over the Rubenstein sale this week.
Yeah, that's very weird to see.
You got anything else on old Mr. Rubenstein?
Well, I'm not sure if his fingerprints are on this deal that they made today. What do you think?
Yeah, too bad we recorded before the Corbin Burnes trade news broke. Or else we wouldn't be able to cover it tonight.
Right.
You said you broke this news to me.
Yeah, I saw something on Twitter about how it was close, and then like a minute later, Jeff Passan said it was done. And suddenly the O's had Corbin Burnes in return for Joey Ortiz, DL Hall, and that competitive balance draft pick, I think number 34 in the draft this year.
You called that. You mentioned a week or so ago that competitive balance pick could be in play for a trade.
Yeah, I thought it might be a good way to get a pitcher without giving up a prospect that you feel good about because it's an unknown at this point.
The more I think about this trade, I think it's a fleecing, to be honest.
It seems good to me. I mean, as an Orioles fan, of course, you're going to be biased right now and be really excited, and who knows what it'll look like in 3 or 5 years. But Corbin Burnes is a great pitcher. I have to be honest, I didn't realize that Joey Ortiz was 25 years old at this point. I thought he was a couple years younger, and the fact that he's 25 and so is Hall, and they're both like kind of major league players right now, like Well, they'll be on the Brewers roster, but they're not. I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is if they were super great prospects at 25, they'd already be up making a solid impact, you know?
Yeah, to get a pitcher like this without trading like Kaiser or Kerstad, um, I think that's a big move. DL Hall, I'm all over. I've been all over the place on him. I've watched him pitch a lot with Norfolk. It was maddening watching him start games. I was happy he was able to save his season last year by going down to the Florida complex and getting healthy and coming back as a relief pitcher. He was like a revelation. So hopefully he can continue on that path with the Brewers. I imagine they're going to try him as a starter first. They would benefit from him being successful as a starter, and he has gone on record as saying he wants to be a starter, but yeah, who knows with him? The floor is low and the ceiling is high. Sometimes he looks like David Price. Sometimes he looks like David Koresh.
All right. Yeah, and Ortiz was just blocked with too many guys in the infield and both the major league roster and prospects ahead of him. And you know better than me, but it seems like Norby and Ortiz are pretty close as far as prospect quality. So having Norby still, I think, lessens the blow of losing a guy like Ortiz.
Yeah, I'm a big Joey Ortiz guy. I think Connor Norby's going to be better, but I like watching Joey Ortiz play more, if that makes sense. Joey Ortiz is very exciting to me. Connor Norby's just kind of steady, like can do no wrong, but Joey Ortiz will not let any ball by him in the infield. Um, yeah, if I'm the Brewers, I don't know who I'd want more, Norby or Ortiz. I wonder if they had their pick or not.
Yeah, we might never know. But speaking of the Brewers, what the O's got back in Corbin Burnes is 2021 Cy Young winner. He led the league that year with a 2.43 ERA. In 2022, he led the league in strikeouts and starts. And then in 2023, he had his lowest ERA, I should say worst ERA, of the past 3 seasons, which was 3.39. And he still led the league with a 1.069 whip. So he kind of came on as a starter in the shortened 2020 season at the age of 25. And ever since then, he's been one of the top, 10 starters in baseball, I would say.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he gets an extension or not. We talked about his arbitration on a recent episode. He didn't like that process with the Brewers.
Yeah, that's true. You would hope that the O's trading for him, and he'll be 29 this year, and he's probably the best pitcher the O's have had since like Mike Messina. I don't know if you can think of anybody better and more recent, but it's been a long time since they've had somebody of Burns' caliber. So hopefully they can keep him around.
With how fast this trade came together after the sale news, you have to wonder if this was agreed upon months ago and they couldn't get owner approval from someone.
Yeah, that wouldn't be surprising. It would probably be tough to engage the Brewers as soon as they found out about the sale and iron out a deal this quickly, especially knowing how long the cease negotiations have taken. And thankfully, the O's are, well, I'm assuming, no longer a part of that.
This is bad news for White Sox fans. I have a feeling they really overplayed their hand with Dylan Cease.
Yeah, they might have. I'm of course biased now, but I think Burns is a better pitcher than Cease, especially the last few years. You look at them all as a whole. Burns is certainly better.
Yeah, I'm way more excited about Burns, especially at this price. I was concerned about the asking price for Cease. Um, the Did you see that video of Alex Anthopoulos being accosted by Braves fans to trade for Cease, and he yelled back at him, "We tried. The cost is too high."
Yeah. Yeah, and this should set the market for Cease at least. Maybe the White Sox actually got helped out a little here to just as far as making a deal, knowing the max they could get is something like this, and it'll probably be a little less.
In DL Hall and Joey Ortiz, the Brewers got two exciting players, which is good for them because their roster is relatively boring. I'm definitely going to follow these guys' career going forward and see how they do.
Yeah, I've got nothing against the Brewers, and being in the NL Central, they're never really gonna be a threat to the Orioles, and until they hopefully face off in the World Series someday, who knows? But um, you know, it's cool to see them go somewhere else and get a chance, and it's of course cool to get Corbin Burnes on the O's.
I put out a poll before we started recording and after the trade news broke, and I asked, just for the record, who are you more disappointing about trading away, Ortiz or Hall? And we got 127 votes already. There's still 20 hours left on the poll, but I think it's safe to call this. Hall is at 86%, Ortiz is at 14%.
Yeah, that's way more lopsided than I would expect. What about you?
Yeah, that's definitely way more lopsided than I would have expected, but I did figure Hall would win this. Maybe not by that much. I am more disappointed in losing Joey Ortiz, personally. Even though
Yeah,
he's blocked, I guess from a long term perspective on Joey Ortiz, because Hall was ready to help out this year somewhere, where Joey was pretty much blocked.
right. Yeah, maybe that's why people were gonna miss Hall more because they saw him in the majors more than Ortiz this year. But we won't really know for a few years, and I guess you always hope that it works out for both teams, or unless you're selfish and you just want to see the Orioles win the trade in a landslide and those other guys do nothing. I don't know.
Yeah, to me, Ortiz was kind of underrated by the organization, and I'm saying that because of how little he played last year during his call ups. He was called up first, and he started like 2 or 3 games, and then they sent him back down, and then they called him back up for, I don't know, 3 weeks, a month maybe, and he never played in that second call up. So that was kind of a sign, like, oh, maybe they don't like Ortiz as much as I do.
Yeah, and then Westberg came up after him and played a relative big a lot compared to Ortiz. So you have to think he was behind Westberg on their internal organizational depth chart. And then just looking at the infield in the majors last year, you had Henderson at shorter third. Westberg is more of a third base, second base type guy. It seems like Mateo can play short. Arias can play almost anywhere in the infield. So they just have so much going on there that it was inevitable that somebody was getting traded.
Yeah, we even saw Urias at first base last year. I wonder if that'll happen again this coming season.
He's a good first baseman. I Mountcastle to me was kind of up and down at first. He had some great plays and some other times where I thought he should have caught some, especially throws that weren't great, but seemed very pickable, so to speak. But if Mountcastle's healthy, he's definitely the majority first baseman.
Yeah, he was getting a lot of low throws from Gunner early in the season, but
Yeah,
so he fixed that quick when he did fix it. There were no problems after that, but the first month or so of the season, he was turfing balls to Mountcastle.
yeah, no, that's true.
Oh, and I would think this would open the door for Jackson Holiday having a better chance on the opening day roster. I personally think it's a 0% chance he's on the opening day roster, but this opens a door for him in some regards.
Yeah, I've read people speculating that the O's might try to have him up and have him get the rookie of the year and get another draft pick out of it as the incentive for bringing up young players. And I don't know what the threshold is for games played, but like you said, if he's not going to be in the lineup every day, and um, then I don't really see the point of that.
Yeah, I don't see the need to rush him. He can win rookie of the year in 2025. He doesn't got to win it this year.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point because he's what 20, 21?
Yeah, he's so young. He looks even younger too.
Right.
Do you want to check in on some Brewers fans and see what they have to say about the trade?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, I'm in the Brewers subreddit. We'll just pick a couple here. The first one says, "Someone tell me how to feel."
So that's a 50-50, I would say, from that person.
Right, he's not upset, but he's not on board either. Here's one from Shoopaloop11. Damn, I know it was only 1 year of control, but I'm kind of underwhelmed.
Okay, so that's not happy about it.
Market for Burnes must have been real bad. Not sure why we didn't just wait till the All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, based on what we were hearing about the White Sox wanting for Cease, it does seem underwhelming for Burnes, but
I wonder if that trade they made at the deadline a couple years ago of Josh Hader to the Padres, and they later came out and said that kind of wrecked the clubhouse a little bit. I wonder if that played into them wanting to trade Burnes before the season started when they had the chance.
yeah, I mean, you would think in theory you'd get more at the start of the year because the O's will now have him for the whole season instead of the end at the deadline. But it does still seem like not a lot.
I can't
So
believe
I'm very cool with this deal at this point.
I can't believe they got a real pitcher. I can't believe it.
It is shocking. It's weird. It's weird to
He,
have that guy where every time he goes out, no matter who he faces, you're like, yeah, the O should probably win.
like 2 years ago, Jordan Lyle was the number one starter.
Right.
Are you starting Corbin Burnes on opening day? I would think so.
Yeah, I think you gotta take the guy you just traded for who won the Cy Young 2 years ago. I mean, he's an ace, and yeah, absolutely. What do
Yeah,
you think?
I guess I would go Burnes, Bradish. I know Grayson's the easy answer here, but do you want to get a lefty there? Do you want to go Burnes, Bradish, Means, Grayson, Kramer, or Cole Irvin in the number 5 spot? They got options now. My guess is because DL Hall is now not going to be in the bullpen. Tyler Wells may find himself out there.
Right. Maybe Irvin too, since he's a lefty and they're losing one.
I had Cole Irvin going into last season as their number 2 starter.
He pitched like one in Oakland. I don't know what happened last year. I'm hoping that was just an anomaly, and he comes back and is at least decent. He was pretty bad.
Yeah, I heard the theory that he wasn't good enough for the American League East and he was just eaten up on the AL West, but I don't know how true that is. Just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of on the worst team in the AL West, so it's not like he
Right.
faced Oakland. So
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
really know. But
yeah. Good
yeah,
point.
I mean, at this point, they have more than five guys who could legitimately be a major league starter this year, and that's a great problem to have.
Here is from Wisconsin Sports 1993. I thought he was long gone since last opening day, and once they signed Hoskins, I thought they were going for it. Guessing they deal Adames next and Hoskins at the deadline if he has a strong season.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know what to feel about the Brewers. I don't really know much about them. They made the playoffs in some capacity last year. Didn't they play the Diamondbacks? Pretty
I
sure Arizona beat them. I don't know if that was a wild card or a division series, but
I still think of them as an American League team. I still think of Houston as a National League team.
maybe you're just enough older than I am. I don't think that way, but I do remember those days.
Yeah, nobody's really happy here. Fuck this. I want a refund for my season tickets. Writing on the wall of Adamas now if it wasn't super obvious already.
I wonder if Woodruff was gonna be healthy this coming year if they would have kept Burnes because you have that great 1-2 punch, and without him they were like, screw it.
And they lost Craig Counsell.
Yeah, to the Cubs too. That sucks for the Brewers fans. They hate the Cubs.
Yeah. We got anything else on this? Oh, what number is he going to wear? I saw he wore 39 last season.
Um, Bradish is 39, right?
Yeah, he used to be number 56, and then he switched.
I don't know. I wonder how much it means to Corbin Burnes.
How much you willing to pay Kyle, Corbin?
Yeah, he'll get the money in the off season at least. Not that he's hurting right now, but
Radish could go back to number 56.
yeah, but then Bradish could be like, I just had a great season with 39.
Yeah, and he obviously switched to 39 for some reason.
Maybe they could arm wrestle for it or something.
Put that on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, just have like a charity bike race around the warning track in Sarasota, like 20 laps. Whoever wins gets 39.
That's it. Do you think there'll be any more moves this offseason? I mean, what's your grade on
Well,
the offseason? It's got to be
I didn't think this was coming, so who knows?
just the ownership change was an A plus, and now we got an ace.
Right. I mean, they really did nothing. They got Kimbrel, which I was fine with, without with Batista out, and you bring Kimbrel and Burns in, and don't really lose anyone of significance. I think that's a good offseason. It went from pretty mediocre to like, wow, that was pretty sweet.
Would you trade Aaron Hicks, Adam Frazier, Jack Flaherty, and Fujinami for Corbin Burnes?
4 guys for one? That's crazy.
Because DL Hall wasn't on the roster as long as all those other guys. Maybe Fujinami.
Yeah. Fuji wasn't around that long. Flaherty wasn't around that long. But yeah, I mean, the core of their team is still there, and they just greatly improved their rotation, so it's all good.
Fujinami is the last guy without a team yet from last year's Orioles. I'm pretty sure everyone else is covered.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think he'll get much of a deal, but he's got a major league arm, that's for sure.
Now that there's an open roster spot with DL Hall and Ortiz off the 40-man, and you got maybe a hole in the bullpen, call Fuji.
I don't know. I don't know if my heart could take that just watching those games.
I can't think of anybody better
So
to watch
stressful
in a minor league setting than Fujinami play for the Tides. I am all in on that.
Yeah, that's probably not what he was thinking when he came over from Japan. It's like being in AAA, but who knows?
Yeah. So we got anything else? We ready to do some apologies? I can't think of anything other than David Rubenstein, good. Corbin Burnes, good.
All is good.
We pretty much just could have said that.
Yeah, that's no fun though. We gotta insert our wrong opinions whenever we can. All right, should I go for the apologies?
Yeah, why not?
All right, I'm going to go with Joe Borowski, a relief pitcher who was drafted by the White Sox in the 32nd round in 1989. He was traded to the Orioles in 1991 for Pete Rose Jr. Yes, he is the son of that Pete Rose. Pete Rose Jr., that is, would go on to have 2 hits in 14 at bats in his major league career, appropriately coming in Cincinnati in 1997. Borowski would go on to be a closer for multiple teams, including the Cubs, Marlins, and formerly Cleveland Indians, where he led the league in saves in 2007. So my apologies to Joe Borowski.
I actually saw Pete Rose Jr. play for the Long Island Ducks versus the Camden River Sharks in the Atlantic League in like 2007.
Isn't Long Island that team that they bring in like washed up former stars?
Yeah, I think Wally Backman might be the manager.
I think I saw a video of him the other day, like going off on some umpire.
Carl Everett was on that team, I think, the Long Island Ducks team.
I feel like that's a team that like Ricky Henderson would have played. No, he might have played for the Newark Bears.
Daniel Murphy was on the Ducks last season, if I remember correctly.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, the Long Island Ducks. So I guess I'll get to my apologies and we can get out of here. Just like Barbie getting snubbed at the Oscars, we snubbed Brady Anderson last week in our any Oriole ever draft on the last episode. And I definitely would have drafted him once I realized our rostered players were selected by a specific year and not a career average on whatifsports.com, the website we'll be using to simulate our any Oriole ever World Series. Brady Anderson was acquired from Boston with Mr. America Kurt Schilling in exchange for Mike Boddicker on July 29th, 1988. He was a 10th round selection in 1985. His 50 home runs in 1996, a feat he accomplished all on his own through hard work and perseverance, were a Baltimore team record until surpassed by Chris Davis's 53 in 2013. A 2004 inductee into the Orioles Hall of Fame and three-time All-Star in 92, 96, and 97. Anderson was known for his Luke Perry-like sideburns. He appeared in a 1997 episode of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. He was named Special Assistant to the Executive Vice President on January 19th, 2012. Promoted a year later to Vice President of Baseball Operations. He left the organization after the 2019 season when Mike Elias reduced his role. I'm not sure how you can have an any Oriole ever draft and not select one of the most prominent Orioles of the 90s, so apologies to Brady Anderson for the glaring oversight.
Yeah, that single season caveat would have been nice for us to know because his 96 was just ridiculous.
Yeah, it was bonkers. He stole 50 bases one season, too.
Yeah, that was in 92. 96, he had a 1034 OPS or 1.034. I don't even know how you say that, but career OPS was 787 and he was at 1034 that one year. So just a crazy outlier season.
When I was looking him up, I did not remember him playing for the Cleveland Indians at all.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, he's a guy I would have guessed didn't spend his whole career with the Orioles. So he actually played more with the O's than I thought, looking at his stats. Because he, besides that, very beginning with Boston, he only played for Cleveland for a year at the end.
Yeah, he didn't play for the Red Sox, right?
No, it said he played for them for like a few games.
Ah.
Let me look that back up. It was very short, though. 41 games.
Oh, wow. I would have guessed like 10 or so.
Yeah, but then he played 14 years with the O's and then 34 games for Cleveland.
Yeah. Sorry, Brady, for the omission.
Yep. Sorry. Not sorry.
All right. So I guess that's it.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and welcome, Corbin Burnes.
Yeah. Thank you. See you later, everybody.